they were trying to teach English, teach literacy in an African language by the methods that had been used to teach English, which meant learning to polyparrot it first and then afterwards having an explanation as to what it meant. And I just hope that other people might be able to have an input into this and tell me how we might approach teacher trainers about multilingualism and help them to feel freer to do things in a multilingual way.
What we're doing at the moment is we're going to reading scheme of 7-year-old children's language in a school situation where they had free play periods, and finding out how they actually use English. That's how it started out. And so we produce the books as a substitute for Ladybird, which says things like, here is Peter, here is Jane. However, what we are now doing is getting the children to rewrite the books, and they're rewriting them in their own form of English, which we call Nigerian Learners English, NLE, technical term. We have facilitators working with groups of children, small groups of children, using their home language. He adapts his picture in accordance with what the children need. And the different cultural context of different languages. That's why the pictures are so important. The pictures are going to be different depending on the cultural context. Most of our books are written relating to the plateau environment. We did one book in Lagos. We did completely different pictures. The artists and I are both familiar with Lagos, and I've got some Lagos pictures article in English. And it's quite different from what most of our books are like.
So they don't recognise the cultural context individually.
African Storybook originated from South Africa, so a lot of the pictures depict the dress code or otherwise of South Africa, and there'll be lots of sort of toys and objects and foods which are particular to South Africa. They really aren't relevant to South Africa.
What I have found with African Storybook, I read it to my grandson here in England, age 5, and he loves them. Because they've got the sort of pictures that he's familiar with.
When you're talking about materials and teaching in the Islamic context, where Jane is talking about is actually on the sort of more Christianized middle part of Nigeria.
But not entirely.
Not entirely. But if you go into the Islamic heartlands in West Africa, it's very, very different. The dress codes are different, the teaching styles are different, expects to be the centre of attention, expects complete obedience.
Now in Federal State, most of the elite people are in fact Christian, but they dress very similar to the Islamic way of dressing, and the women wear geles, you know.
Even in rural situations, when people go to the market, they dress up. People don't want to see pictures of themselves with bare feet, not nowadays anyway. So I just spent about 6 weeks struggling in paint to add flip-flops to every morning. And there are not enough really attractive pictures of women doing things. There's hardly any woman teacher in the whole thing. The woman might be a nurse but never a doctor. They seem to be very old-fashioned. I'm sceptical about the whole idea of translating stories because it pushes you into a non-natural way of speaking. I love your idea of the children writing their own, but that's a little way down the line. Where I'm concerned coming from.
I mean, I'm now more involved in adult literacy, but I have taught children before. And certainly at our literacy we had no textbooks when we started. They just weren't there. So we had to develop our own materials. And people did that in different ways. We used local newspapers or people told their stories. And I think with children, I've taught my grandchildren, I get them to tell me about themselves. They were happy to talk about themselves. You wrote it down and they read that back and they drew the illustrations, but they made their own story. Well, let's tell a story. What did we do yesterday? So one child says one thing, another child says another thing, another says something else, and then you read it back. They have an idea of the meaning about what they're going to read.
I work with primary teachers in Rwanda, for example, and it would be really good to have stories which can be used in the classroom. when I used to work in EAL, ESL, we used to call it 34, almost 50 years ago, we used to have stories with a sequence of pictures, a sequence of words. The story was told, the kids retold it, they matched the pictures with the sentences, take the pictures away, make sentences, and gradually write something of your own. Work with the parents know the stories, that kind of thing. A set of basically a picture sequence and a sequence of sentences. It would be great to have that in primary schools in Rwanda, or in Tanzania, or in any other African country. But you can't get it because it is not published. I imagine the publishers feel that kind of thing they can't sell it. But it would be great to have it. And I was looking recently at the African Story Project, thinking, well, now maybe here is something where on the basis of a series of stories right across Africa, you could develop that kind of class set of pictures and sentences which kids could be sequencing in groups in the classroom. But you're making me think about the appropriateness of it.
It would work for multilingual classrooms as well. My former life was teaching English as a foreign language, and we used to use picture stories where people had to follow the picture story and then try to say it in English.
Yeah.
But if you could produce sets of pictures appropriate to Africa without words, and the people then had to tell the story as they understood it from the picture, and then write it.
Have it in what one might call the main language, or you could have it in the other language.
So you could create your own material.
Create your own material.
As your stimulus.
Could use it in many different ways then, because the teacher could get them to put the pictures in order to make the story, and then they could tell the
Are you
story.
talking about printed on paper rather than virtual?
Multi-visual basis,
It would just be downloadable.
Well, I'm thinking about places where people can't even download text that I'm sending them in the moment.
You could do them locally, but the teacher
I mean, if they're produced without text, you could sell them larger numbers, probably. You could pay for the right to do it.
Yes, well, Jane's got a friend who is.
Because there's no commercial possibility. The person who's doing these books, he's the artist. I knew him first as a picture and artist. He's now working at a special education centre. He can't get paid for working as an artist. He has to have another job. There's no opportunity for these artists to actually make a career of it.
No, not a career, but within a project, within a funded project. The trouble is, I don't think publishers who publish for Africa and in Africa think in these terms, because the pedagogy that's commonly used right across sub-Saharan Africa doesn't involve the idea of, say, a picture sequence, or the idea of children working in groups, sequencing, talking about them and writing about them. The pedagogy doesn't demand that. You know what I mean? It's a very sort of teacher-centered pedagogy. It's a very teacher-fronted pedagogy. They don't focus on children making meaning and making sense of pictures and telling stories. They don't do it.
They just assume that people are going to be able to understand what they read. But the long habit is not understanding what is read, waiting for explanation. In Guinea-Bissau, they go to the morning class in the state school, and they go to private paid explanation in the afternoon, or vice versa, depending on when the classes are. And you pay for both. You just don't expect to understand your text until it's explained to you. It's quite a It is just multilingual, isn't it?
He knew Creole, but he couldn't understand what he was reading when it was in Creole.
But he couldn't relate to understanding the written text. This was a 9-year-old who could actually go to it to help the children think beyond the story. This was extremely difficult. The idea that you could teach the children to think laterally, think beyond. It took them a long time to think of creative questions.
The trainer who were writing the material.
These were trainers who were writing the material, but they'd never written materials before. But who else is going to write material? No, I've written materials for adult education in that condition, so I was helping them just as a volunteer and suggesting ideas sometimes.
Because the language of home, if you like, or the local vernacular, although there's a close phonic correspondence, I think is what I'm saying, because it is still English, but because it's a variety of English, it's got nothing to do with school.
Yeah.
And because the vernacular of home is completely demonised, and schools are saying speak properly, speak good English, all that rest of it, in terms of meaning making, in terms of reciprocity, in terms of Ubuntu relationships, if you like, they're disempowered in very similar ways. There's not one variety. Again, there's a huge range of varieties, and also everybody, that kind of gradual thing about languages, there's almost no such thing as a single language. Every language is on its way to becoming something else.
It was quite interesting. He was emphasising breaking down some of the structures that are in, not necessarily the colonial languages, but even within Africa you will have forms of hierarchy and colonialism because they just don't fit the purposes and the expression and the languages that people are using themselves. So how do you break all that down and put in its place something which fits better? You know, the English language here has developed over millennia. And the education system partially hand in hand with that and partially superimposed over the last 100 or 200 years.
It's very much about power structures and power language. It's instrumental, it's recognising the language they're using for purpose. So obviously that business about not just being local but wanting to go beyond means that you want access to academic power language. Because we're transparent about how that works and how you might develop it as a finite thing, but then you are also have metacognition about your other languages you have available and what you might want to do with that. If you're transparent about that as opposed to pretending that there's no ideology, it's just education. The teachers would set out their stall, if you like, of what it is for secondary schools. Obviously it was the curriculum which was bounded by all sorts of institutional pressures to do. They set out what they were going to do and the kids chose their teachers. And they'd have a meeting with them, and it worked, you know, because it wasn't like one, it's quite a small school, so maybe, but then they had a town meeting with the parents who discussed what they'd learned and what the kids thought about it and what they wanted from literacy. There's a lot of reciprocity between the school and home and the kids. And that, I think, is a model that could work.
Some key points of what you've just been talking about, which was the UK context and how multilingualism.
So we were talking about tried and tested approaches that we know work well with adult speakers of other languages who are developing their literacy skills. How could we bring and make the most of the richness of a multilingual classroom in supporting adults to develop their literacy, given the pressures of time that it takes, funding priorities which reflect policy decisions and priorities. We also mentioned briefly people's perceptions of the status of their own languages and literacy in their language, and some people saying, well, what's the point in trying to learn literacy in Tigrinya now that I'm living here? I want to learn literacy in English. And on the other hand, parents saying, I'm so relieved to hear that it's okay to use my language and my literacy with my child because I thought I had to be using English. Anything to add?
How to...
Yes,
She's got you were talking about, sorry, again, it's a thing, we don't have an answer. Respecting people from different, especially language backgrounds, and try to teach literacy in a floating way, respecting, while we have floating people of different languages, but they are all aiming there, so how to use their well, but not leave this open space, but it's more aimed at in one direction.
Beautifully, very succinctly summarise it. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to give you a chance afterwards to respond to all, both of our speakers to respond after, I should have warned you that, but to respond. Who are the experts and wherever you drifted from that?
We agreed that the teachers were the experts themselves in terms of local knowledge and knowledge of local languages and so on. But then the other question was, if those teachers are working within a system which is based only on phonics and it's not making sense, then they lack expertise in pedagogical issues, if you like. So then there was that question of who has the right to come along and say it's got to be done differently. And that was one of the things. We also talked about perhaps that sort of thing works rather than a top-down cascade model, that it would work better than a kind of small project model that would work outwards in a kind of ripple effect rather than that. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I suppose the case of having, if you want to, I suppose it's about how you create change. And also we talked a bit about the dangers of global education manoeuvres. I mean, there's a lot of commercial interest in phonics schemes. There's a lot of it's not just happening in a sort of isolation, and the bridge education, and all of those kinds of things. But also some of those IT, the direct instruction and packages, if you like. There's a lot of, so the tension between empowering teachers and recognising their knowledge and their expertise and empowering them, where are the spaces for them to even be able to do that, and how to bring families on board, because obviously families often want the education that they recognise.
What would be really useful for primary teachers that I work with in Rwanda and Tanzania, around about grade 3, grade 4, it would be enormously useful for them to be able to have picture sequences which relate to stories, and for there also to be sets of words and sets of sentences which children match with the pictures. Certainly the pedagogy used in teaching English doesn't involve anything like children working in groups and talking through stories and retelling them and sequencing.
For both literacy in different languages and for teaching language.
Interestingly, that links to our BALID's last event, last ILD, where Jill led and we talked about stories, and the tendency to move towards nowadays, instead of what you were talking about, which is a series of pictures, which the learner can then, or the group or whoever can make their own text associated with, to using pictures more to illustrate text, and text is the centre of the story rather than the pictures. Great. What else have you got from your...
So we've had quite a discussion about the relevance of pictures, cultural relevance. People dress in a certain way or behave in a certain way, etc., etc., and that is often not reflected in pictures.
Also sequential picture reading. People are trying to read in the other way, you know.
Yes.
Etc.
Yes.
So, yes. And again, back to whether we want to direct, the picture's got to show you what the 3 points that you're supposed to be reading about, or whether the picture tells a story itself that the reader can themselves move around, just like maybe moving around a paragraph. Yes, Juliette.
Yes, we also talked a little about making your own materials, bearing in mind that it's often very difficult to get materials anyway, even more difficult to get suitable materials in many languages, how it was possible for teachers to make their, and sometimes illustrate their own.
But one thing that struck me was your multi-languaging, so it's just a really interesting word to use. And I agree with that idea that trans-languaging, does just feel a little bit like you're going across some kind of bridge, or suddenly in one language, then another language, and perhaps not really recognising what it means in terms of using lots of different languages. But yeah, we're still sort of trying to work out the meaning around that.
I think we all agree that we need new ways of thinking about language that are more inspired by these settings in which language use in all its rich multimodalities happens, that depart from Eurocentric notions. And so one thing we should probably depart from is this conceptualization of multilingualism or translanguaging that is always based on the existence of discrete entities, and see that there are contexts where that may be the case, where people use separate languages, but also where people use language in a very different way. in all modalities.
What that means in terms of education as well.
Yes.
You know, what would it mean to have
Yes.
multi-languaging
Yes.
classroom,
Yes.
multi-languaging institution,
Mhm.
rather than an institution that's very much based around monolingualism.
Packages which can be used precisely, which are designed to be used in as many languages as possible, which allow individuals to develop a narrative about themselves and consider the language, their repertoires and the languages they have as assets which they can make use of.
The grandparents will tell them, you don't speak your heritage language and you cannot write it, terrible. They cannot win, right? So I think it's maybe more useful to set them free and say, look, languaging, using languages, means use your resources according to your social needs of the moment. That means you're in a standard language culture that is English in the school. That's wonderful. You have a different home context. Just do what you feel is best for your family. Yeah, don't tell them you only need to use English. Don't tell them you only use Tigrinya. Do what you feel is good and creative and playful for you in your family to express yourselves. You know, I think for me, as a multilingual myself and bringing up a multilingual child in Britain, you know, and working in multilingual contexts in Africa, I think that's the most important thing. We need to function in particular contexts, but, you know, we tend to want to patrol everything. So that is related to the question of empowering. You know, how do you make sure that you empower and do not introduce yet another prescriptive context, only this time it's multilingual, right? And now you need to translanguage in the right way. And so in LILIEMA, we are experimenting with having a template, a very simple template, to make worksheets where teachers can create their own drawings, and everybody, in fact, that can then be loaded, you know, as a graphic file and integrated into worksheets. And where also people can create their own custom dictionaries. Of course, we don't need the standardized languages. You know, if you have a teacher who speaks Yola, then they can just load some words so that you don't need to do everything manual all the time when you just use the certain, you know, words containing certain sounds. Easy ways to enable teachers based on a model that was created in you know, in workshops with the teachers to then create materials that they can copy and print for that particular context. And for me, that's a way forward.
The idea of infinite relations of dependency, that we are actually moving from fixity to more fluid spaces, whether within what you conventionally call monolingual class or in heavily multilingual context. It looks like anything fixed about literacy as autonomous set of skills that we go out and get there. That idea seems to go away, and it's about time that we need to move and be proactive about the realities of the 21st century.
I can't believe that here we are saying autonomous skills we need to shelve when we're thinking again about Brian Street and his involvement in BALID and remembering him and how he was saying that more than a few years ago. I would like to say an enormous thank you to all of you. To those of you old friends for coming along again, that's brilliant. For those of you who've heard us, who've come along to BALID event for the first time, I hope you found it useful and inspiring, and that you'll keep in contact with us.